I thought no one was looking. The food court roared with the usual chaos, plastic trays scraping, kids whining, phones buzzing, but the CEO, dressed in faded jeans and a plain sweater, stood frozen beside her son as if the noise had suddenly dropped away. Just a few tables over, a single father sat hunched forward, shoulders tense, one arm shielding his small boy from the curious stares of strangers. The child's hands trembled as he tried to eat, nuggets slipping, soda threatening to spill, his face burning with the quiet shame only a child feels when he knows he's different. Without a word, the father reached out, wiping the boy's hands with a napkin he'd folded carefully, then tore his own sandwich in half so the child could manage smaller bites. When the boy's eyes filled with tears, the man leaned close and whispered, "Hey, look at me. You're doing great." It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was everything. The CEO felt her chest tighten as her own son tugged her sleeve, unaware that his mother was watching something that cracked her open. She saw the exhaustion etched into the man's face, the way his jacket sleeves were frayed, the way he kept scanning the room, ready to shield his child from any cruel glance. A woman nearby scoffed softly, muttering about kids these days, and the father's jaw clenched as if he'd heard it 1,000 times before. He simply pulled his son closer, resting his forehead against the boy's for a brief second, breathing him in like an anchor. The CEO's pulse raced. She wasn't supposed to be here like this, anonymous, powerless, just another parent in a mall, but she couldn't look away. Something about the quiet dignity of that moment, unfolding in plain sight yet unseen, made her realize this wasn't just a scene. It was a test, and she was standing right in the middle of it. From the outside, her life looked flawless, boardrooms bending to her decisions, headlines praising her as a visionary CEO, a bank account that could buy anything her son pointed at. Yet in moments like this, standing in worn sneakers and a borrowed sense of normalcy, she felt the quiet ache of loneliness that no success could erase. Dressing down wasn't just a disguise, it was her way of being present, of letting her little boy see her not as a powerful name, but simply as mom. As she watched the single father nearby, her heart softened with a deep, aching respect. She recognized that look in his eyes, the relentless responsibility, the love that never clocks out, the fear of failing the one person who matters most. He had no assistance, no safety net, only patience and devotion, offered freely to his son in a noisy mall that didn't stop to notice. In that instant, she understood how invisible parents like him could feel, and how heroic they truly were. If you believe every child deserves a father's love, please subscribe to our channel. The CEO barely noticed her son slipping from her side until he was already halfway across the food court, drawn by something she couldn't yet name. He moved with the fearless curiosity of childhood, eyes locked on the other boy, who sat quietly across from his father, swinging his feet beneath the table. The two children stared at each other for a moment, an invisible conversation passing between them. Then the CEO's son smiled, wide, unguarded, and lifted his toy car as if offering peace. The other boy hesitated, glancing up at his father for permission he never asked out loud. The single father nodded gently, his expression softening. "Go ahead," he said, voice low but steady. The boy slid off his chair, clutching his cup, and approached with careful steps, as if afraid the moment might vanish if he moved too fast. They met between tables, crouching on the tiled floor, rolling the toy back and forth. No words were needed. Their laughter came in small bursts, pure and light, cutting through the noise of the food court like something fragile and precious. The CEO watched, her breath shallow, struck by how easily children crossed boundaries adults built so carefully. She saw the father remain seated, hands folded, eyes never leaving his son, guarding him without hovering, trusting the world just enough. When another child bumped the table, the father instinctively reached out, steadying his son's drink before it could spill. "You're okay," he murmured, brushing invisible crumbs from the boy's jacket. The gesture was automatic, practiced, filled with quiet pride. The CEO's son looked back at her briefly, checking in, then returned to play. She nodded, allowing it, feeling a warmth she hadn't expected. For once, she wasn't directing, correcting, or rushing, she was simply witnessing. The father finally stood, offering a polite smile in her direction. It wasn't confident or apologetic, just respectful. "They seem to get along," he said. She smiled back, surprised by how much that simple sentence meant. "They do," she replied, her voice softer than usual. For a moment, they stood like mirrors, two parents equally devoted, worlds apart yet standing on the same patch of tiled floor, united by small hands and shared worry. As he turned back to his son, the CEO's eyes caught on something she hadn't noticed before. The father's shirt, clean but threadbare, with a tiny tear near the collar that had been carefully stitched by hand, as if someone had decided it was still worth saving. The moment stretched thinner as the children laughed, and the CO felt an unfamiliar urgency rise in her chest. She wasn't used to acting without strategy, yet something about the father's quiet dignity demanded motion. She stepped closer, the noise of the mall blurring as her pulse quickened. "Excuse me," she said gently, crouching to the children's level. "They seem to be having the best meeting here." Her son grinned proudly, while the other boy beamed, clutching the toy car like a treasure he hadn't known he needed. She turned to the father, meeting his eyes directly. "I hope you don't mind," she continued. "My son has been asking to share." There was no pity in her voice, only respect. The father studied her for a second, then nodded. "Kids know when they're welcome," he replied. Instead of reaching for her wallet, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded card, plain, unbranded, unassuming. She placed it on the table, not sliding it toward him, not pushing it, simply leaving it there as if it belonged. "I'm organizing a private children's workshop," she said calmly. "Small group. No cost. I think your son would be perfect for it." Her tone carried certainty, not charity. An invitation, not an offer of help. The father frowned slightly, confused but attentive. "What kind of workshop?" he asked. She smiled at the boys. "One where kids get to build things with their hands and feel proud of what they make," she answered, choosing her words carefully. Around them, trays clattered and voices rose, but the table felt sealed off from the mall, like a quiet room carved out of noise. The CEO sensed the weight lifting from her shoulders as she spoke like a parent, not an executive. "You don't have to decide now," she added, standing. "Just thought you should know someone sees him." The father's jaw tightened, emotion flickering before he masked it with gratitude. He picked up the card, turning it over, expecting fine print, logos, some hidden catch. There was only a name written neatly and a number beneath it. No title. No company. Just a promise without explanation. Then he looked up at her, really looked, and something in his expression changed, eyes widening slightly, as if he had just realized the woman in front of him was far more than another parent passing through the mall. 3 months changed the shape of his days. The father no longer measured time by school pickups alone, but by deadlines, security badges, and the low hum of machines that never slept. He worked in a place where mistakes echoed loudly and silence carried weight. The environment was nothing like the mall. Glass walls replaced plastic tables and voices were controlled, deliberate. He wore a pressed shirt now, his hands steady as he reviewed reports, aware that every decision he made carried consequences beyond himself. He hadn't expected to belong here, yet he did. Not because of luck, but because someone had seen what he could do under pressure. His supervisors demanded clarity, speed, and accountability, qualities he had sharpened through years of parenting alone. When the doors of the conference room opened, the CEO walked in, composed and unmistakable. Recognition flashed between them, brief but electric. She paused for half a second longer than protocol allowed, then took her seat at the head of the table. The father remained standing, unsure whether to acknowledge the past or bury it under professionalism. He chose the latter. To everyone else, she was authority incarnate. To him, she was still the woman in jeans who had knelt beside 2 boys on a tiled floor. The meeting moved fast. Numbers, projections, risk assessments. The father spoke only when needed, concise and precise. The CEO listened closely, her gaze sharp, testing, as if measuring how much he had grown beyond that first encounter. At one point their eyes met again. There was no smile this time, only mutual recognition. Respect, sharpened by distance. Neither offered explanation, and the silence between them carried more meaning than words ever could. When the meeting ended, she rose without looking back. He gathered his notes, exhaling slowly, aware that this room demanded more than gratitude, it demanded proof. And he was ready to give it. As he walked down the corridor, his phone vibrated with a message from his son's school, reminding him of how far he had come. The worlds he balanced were colliding and there was no turning back now. What no one in that building knew, not even the CEO, was that he had accepted this job while quietly holding on to a secret that could redefine why he was really there. The crisis began quietly, the most dangerous way possible. A flagged report surfaced during the morning briefing. Numbers misaligned just enough to suggest a system failure, or human error. The room tightened. Screens glowed with red indicators, and the father felt the familiar weight settle into his shoulders, the same weight he carried when his son was sick and money was thin. He reviewed the data line by line, refusing the easy explanation. Panic would have been faster, safer even, but truth required patience. Around him voices overlapped, blame circling like vultures. He stayed seated, hands flat on the table, breathing evenly, choosing responsibility over defense. When asked for his assessment, he spoke plainly. If we rush this, we'll make it worse. A few heads turned. Slowing things down wasn't popular. It never was. But he had learned, raising a child alone, that reacting wasn't the same as protecting. The CO watched from across the room, unreadable. She had built her reputation on decisive action, yet something in his tone cut through the noise. Not confidence, conviction. She raised a hand. Give him the floor, she said. The room fell silent. He outlined a solution that required transparency, admitting where safeguards had failed and where accountability truly belonged. It wasn't flattering. It implicated systems she had approved. The risk was immediate, personal. His voice didn't waver. A senior executive interrupted sharply. That could cost us millions. The father nodded once. So could pretending it's someone else's fault. The words landed heavy. He wasn't challenging authority. He was defending integrity, the same way he defended his son's dignity in smaller, quieter battles. The CO leaned back, studying him. She recognized the choice he was making. The harder path, the lonelier one. Trust, she knew, was never built in moments of comfort. It was forged here, under pressure, when consequences were real. After a tense pause, she gave the order. We do it his way. The room exhaled, some in relief, others in resentment. The father felt no victory, only resolve. This wasn't about being right. It was about being accountable. As teams dispersed, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it, finishing his notes, steadying himself. Work had taught him control. Parenthood had taught him priorities. He checked the screen. The call was from an unfamiliar number, and the voicemail that followed was short, urgent, and unmistakably about his son. One message that instantly shifted the balance of the entire day. The day unraveled differently than either of them had planned. After the call was resolved and his son was safe, the father returned to work carrying a quiet urgency that didn't fade. Late that afternoon, a message appeared on his screen, an invitation to the top floor, private office, no agenda listed. His chest tightened as he stepped inside, the door closing softly behind him. The CO didn't look up right away. She stood by the window, city stretching below like a living organism. I wondered when this moment would come, she said finally. There was no authority in her voice now, only honesty. She gestured for him to sit, then took the chair across from him, folding her hands like a parent preparing for a difficult truth. I didn't choose you because of your resume, she began. I chose you because of who you were when you thought no one important was watching. The father remained silent, listening the way he listened to his son, fully without interruption. She exhaled slowly as if releasing something she had carried for decades. She told him about her childhood, about a father who loved fiercely but quietly, working himself into exhaustion to keep their small family afloat. People mistook his silence for weakness, she said. They never saw what I saw. Her voice cracked as she recalled a crowded public place long ago, where her father had shielded her from ridicule with nothing but patience and presence. He died before anyone ever thanked him, she continued. Before anyone ever said, I see you. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. When I saw you at that table in the mall, I saw him. And I promised myself I would never let someone like that remain invisible again. The father swallowed hard, emotion tightening his throat. I didn't want special treatment, he said quietly. I just wanted a chance to do honest work. She nodded. And that's exactly why you earned it. What passed between them wasn't pity or gratitude, it was recognition, clean and mutual. She leaned forward. What we build here matters. Not just profits. People. She spoke of restructuring teams, of protecting those who carried unseen burdens, of creating systems that didn't punish integrity. I need someone who will challenge me when it counts, she said. Not flatter me when it's easy. He met her gaze, steady. I won't always agree with you. A faint smile touched her lips. Good, she replied. Neither did my father. The alliance formed there wasn't sealed with contracts or promises, but with shared values shaped by loss and resilience. As he stood to leave, she added softly, Thank you, for reminding me why I started all this. He paused at the door. Thank you, he answered, for seeing my son's future before I could. The words lingered between them, heavy with meaning. Neither of them knew exactly what the next chapter would demand, only that the path forward would test them both, but this time they wouldn't be walking it alone. The years that followed stitched their lives together in quiet, enduring ways. The father grew into his role with the same steady resolve he brought to parenting, helping build teams where integrity mattered more than optics and where people were judged by their actions, not their titles. His son thrived, confident now, curious, surrounded by opportunities that never erased humility. The CEO in turn found something success had never given her before: peace. Watching her own child grow alongside the boy from the mall reminded her that leadership didn't begin in boardrooms, but in moments of attention, patience, and courage. Their children became friends, then constants, homework at the same table, laughter filling spaces once occupied by exhaustion and doubt. There was no fairy tale transformation, no sudden miracle. Just consistent choices, made by adults who understood that respect was the most valuable currency they could offer. The father never forgot the day he was truly seen, and the CEO never forgot why she chose to look. Together, they proved that opportunity given with dignity multiplies itself, shaping futures far beyond a single generous act. In a world obsessed with numbers and status, their story became a quiet testament to something deeper: that the worth of a person is not measured by their bank account, their job title, or the clothes they wear, but by how they care for those who depend on them. And sometimes all it takes to change a life is the courage to notice love where others only see noise.